Welcome back. It's nice to see you. Nice to hear from you. Like I mentioned last time, it's been great to hear from everyone sharing comments, offering suggestions. I want to shout out to those that aren't able to join us live, but I know that you'll see us in the future. So hi and welcome, and thanks for those that are able to join us live as well. So interesting setup today. I'm still learning about the shade and stuff like that. So apologize that I'm a little bit darker than I would prefer. I'm hoping that you are settling into whatever your fall, autumn season is like for wherever you're in this world. Here it's still nice and sunny, as you can see, hoping that it stays that way for a while. But for those that are a little bit more north, I believe you're starting to wear sweaters. And so with the sweater weather, oftentimes you're clinching, a little bit more, and that shivering effect. And you might not even recognize that the shoulders, the neck, into the back, and then even around throughout the ribs and the lower back oftentimes feel a bit more strain in this time of year. And so I know that I had mentioned we've been working on a lot of grounding practices, but I thought it would also be nice to make sure that we're doing a little bit of the twists and then extending throughout the sides and making sure we're opening throughout the back body and paying special attention to the shoulders. And so that's what we're going to be focusing on today, grounding down, but being mindful to add additional love and movement into the shoulders and to the side body. And so to get started, we'll actually just start in a reclined position. So go ahead and allow yourself to come into a nice supported position on your back. Opening the hands up, it's almost like a backwards practice, starting out in our final resting pose. And if it feels okay for you, you can go ahead and close the eyes, or maybe just have a soft gaze. Maybe you can just see the eyelashes a little bit out of focus while your eyelids are working towards closed. And then allow yourself to take up the space. Whatever you provided for yourself, if it's inadequate and you can feel things out to the side, go ahead and nudge them away. Allowing the palms to face up. So that might mean that you have to take your elbows out a little bit further. And then starting to connect with the breath, letting go of whatever has happened in the day and the week prior. Inhaling through the nose for a count of 3, 2, and 1. And then exhaling through the nose for a count of 3, 2, 1. Continuing like that. Inhale for 3, 2, 1. Exhaling for 3, 2, 1. And go ahead at that breath cadence that works for your body. And I'll start to talk to you a little bit about the shoulders and throughout the back body that's connected. On your next inhale, just take notice of the shoulders. Maybe rise them up closer to the ears. And then on the next exhale, imagine spreading them down and back, opening through the chest. Your chest might even rise up a little bit as the shoulder blades come together. And try that again. Inhaling, feeling that connection, that lifting of the arms and shoulders, and then that exhale as the back body is grounding down, almost as if you had angel wings and they're pressing into the earth. Let's take that a couple more times. Maybe you exaggerate the inhale, shoulder shrugs up, and then exhale as you find the space in the front body by clasping the shoulder blades together on the back. And once more like that. Exhale as you feel the support of the earth beneath you. On your next inhale, go ahead and bring your feet flat onto the earth. And we're going to continue to press down and release into the earth with this pose here. So on your next inhale, pressing into the earth and slowly lifting the hips as they rise up and you move into a bridge pose here. Taking a couple inhales and exhales in this bridge pose, making sure that you keep a single point of focus on the ceiling, or if your eyes are closed, you're just imagining staring upwards at the sky. Not holding your breath, but continuing to engage through the abs, the inner thighs. And then on your next exhale, slowly roll back down, pressing the back into the earth, allowing that connection to take place. Taking an inhale and an exhale here. And then setting up to do that again. On your next inhale, pressing down into the earth to send the hips to the sky, engaging throughout the abs, the booty, the inner thigh, squeezing that basketball between your knees. Continuing to connect with the breath here. And then on your next exhale, slowly lower down, allowing that small of your back to make contact with the earth. We'll do one more, but this time around, I'm going to have you interlace your fingers underneath. So on the next inhale, press your feet down into the earth, sending the hips the highest they've been this afternoon, and then clasping the hands together underneath, allowing the chest to further open, and feel that stretch throughout the shoulders. You've built a strong foundation with the legs and the last two bridges. You're engaging through the abs, the inner thighs. And now you're able to feel that stretch in the top body this time around. And then on the next exhale, slowly unhinge the hands and then lower down. Once again, allowing that lower back to make contact with the earth. You might envision pressing away with your feet. And then that will shift into the pelvis and cause a tilt, allowing the spine, all those vertebrae to make contact with the earth. And then release, imagining as if your pelvic bowl is tilting forward. So there's a little bit of space now on the lower back. And then on the next inhale, go ahead and press the feet into the earth, tilting your pelvis back so that all along the vertebral column, you're making contact with the mat. And then release so that your pelvis rocks a little bit forward, You might be able to feel that space in the lower spine. And then let's do that once again, pressing your toes and your feet into the mat so that it allows the pelvis to rock backwards. And then slowly releasing so that your pelvis comes back more to a neutral position here. And then on your next inhale, bringing the knees into the chest, rocking side to side here. And then when it feels comfortable for you, on an exhale, go ahead and take the knees over to the right. And so I mentioned to you that we'd be doing some twisting. And so this pose does both the twist as well as the opening in the shoulders and the armpit. Your head is still facing the sky. And you might have your left hand out at a goal post. You might have your right hand encouraging the outer left thigh downwards. Sending breath into the space of the armpit and then the front of that shoulder joint. Maybe you feel the stretch more along the ribs. No right or wrong answer. We all just operate a little differently. And then on your next inhale, go ahead and collect your knees, bringing them back to the center of the mat. And then take some small circles with your knees, imagining that you're drawing on the ceiling. You might go in the opposite direction. And then when it feels right for your body, go ahead and bring those knees into the chest. And on an exhale, take them over to the left this time. Opening throughout the right side of the body. That right hand comes out as if it's a field goal post. And then your left hand is resting either on the mat or on the top of your outer right leg. Continuing to breathe, sending that breath alongside the right body into that armpit and shoulder. On your next inhale, collecting the knees and bringing them back to center. Once again, on your inhale, rocking side to side. Exhale as you make some circles on the ceiling. And then slowly lowering both legs down onto the mat, coming back into that Shavasana pose just for a second. And then at this point, I'm going to have you turn over onto the right side. You're kind of propping yourself up as if you were laying on the beach, laying on the bed, having a little bit of a chat here. And at this point, both legs are stacked on top of each other. And I'm just going to have you inhale as you rainbow that arm, that left arm up overhead. And then exhale as you bring it down alongside the body. If you'd like a little bit more of a stretch as we're going forward and back, I want you to be thinking both of the top left arm and its movement, but also that right arm. Do you feel a stretch in the armpit, that little point of stability on the lower side? Or would you like to lower down, straightening that arm out and resting your elbow on the bicep? With every inhale, you're bringing that left hand up overhead. Exhaling, taking it along the body. Engaging through the abs and the legs to stabilize as we're bringing that movement into the top of the body. A couple more like this. And then the next time that your hand comes back along your leg, go ahead and leave it there. And then encouraging yourself to roll onto your belly. We're gonna go through some cobra poses before we move on to the other side. So hands are about nipple line, nose is on the mat, and I'm inhaling, pressing away from the mat, lifting throughout the top body, making sure that my elbows are in nice and tight. And just like we started class, expanding throughout the front body while squeezing the back body and the shoulder blades together. Continuing to breathe even in this awkward position. And then exhale as we lower down, making that little hand pillow for your forehead to rest on. Being mindful of the breath. Feeling the inhale and the expansion on the belly as it's grounded into the earth. And maybe feeling that expansion on the next breath through the back body. Let's do that once again. Coming into cobra pose, hands are planted about nipple line, toenails are into the mat, and inhale as you press away from the earth, engaging through the abs while you lift and also open through the front body. The chest is expanding as you're engaging throughout the back body. Continuing to breathe. And then exhaling as you lower down once again, forehead on that hand pillow. This time around, you might allow some movement to come into the hips. Wiggling side to side here. And then on your next inhale, slowly turning and making your way onto that left side. You have options just like we did on the other side. So engaging throughout the stacked lower body, you can keep the left hand up as if you're laying in bed, or you can lower it down. And then the right hand inhales as it moves forward, exhale as it rainbows back. Continuing at a pace that feels steady. I've lowered down onto the straight left arm, so it's kind of a little bit of a cushion for me. I find that movement of the lower arm is if I was reaching something high in the cupboard, and so that arm is engaged as well. Stabilizing the entire lower body and then that left arm on top to allow for the movement to come into that right shoulder. And then the next time that arm comes down alongside the body, go ahead and leave it there. And then slowly make your way onto your belly once again, sticking that left hand out nice and straight as it's a capital letter T. And then we're gonna do our reverse thread the needle. So pressing into the earth with our right hand, allowing that kickstand of a right leg to come back, and slowly opening and playing with whatever degree of stretch is comfortable for you in this position. Left temple and cheek are on the earth. Left arm is out straight. Continuing to connect with the breath, allowing it to help you, sending its comforting and cooling sensations to the body. You might feel this stretch in the front of the shoulder joint. Maybe you feel this alongside the forearm of the left arm. Maybe you feel it out in your wrist or your elbow. And then one more inhale. And then exhale as you slowly allow yourself to roll back onto your belly. Bringing in that left arm nice and slow, giving it a little shake. And then sending that right arm out. And then working to create those tents, those spikes that will act as kickstands on the left side. As you inhale and rock back. I need to scoot up. I don't have enough room here. There we go. And once again, my right temple and cheek are down on the earth. My entire right leg is engaged as well. And then I'm sending breath to wherever that point of tension, maybe it's a bit of a tingly feeling. If it's too tingly, go ahead and release a little bit. You don't need to cut off any oxygen or blood supplies. Continuing to acknowledge and send breath. And then on your next inhale, allowing that expansion to come. And then exhale as you slowly work your way back onto the belly, coming into the middle of your mat. Both hands are down around the nipple line. And then tuck your toes and press up in one line, coming into our high plank. Engaging in this position, imagining that a string might be pulling alongside the heels. You have a micro bend in your elbows. You're really engaging throughout the belly and the booty. And then lowering one knee down at a time, coming into our traditional child's pose. Knees are together, toes are touching, forehead is on the mat. I encourage you to take notice of the fingers. Is there a good bit of space in between them? Are all points along the palms pressing down and into the earth? Do you feel that pressure in a different part of the body in comparison to if you just allow the hands to hang out in front of you? And then start to tent your fingers, walking them forward, marching them a bit, stretching out throughout that back body. And then on your next inhale, pressing to rise up into our tabletop position. We're going to go through some cat-cows here, taking notice to expand throughout the back body. So on your inhale, tucking your chin, pressing away from the earth, and really stretching to expand the shoulder blades. You might rock forward and back, just noticing the range of motion that you have in your shoulders. And then when it feels right, go ahead and releasing, dropping the belly, sending the chin, chest, and booty up and back. And just like we started class, engaging throughout those rhomboid muscles that are in the center of the top back, squeezing them together to open throughout the chest. And then on your next inhale, tucking the chin, pressing up into that cat pose once again. Giving it a little wiggle, side to side this time rather than front to back. And then releasing, sticking out the booty, the chin, and the chest, keeping that micro bend. And then this time, rocking front and back, feeling how that movement affects the muscles of the back body, making sure you're engaging throughout the abs. Nice job. And then coming into a neutral spine here, tucking your toes, and then on your inhale, pressing away from the earth to hover the knees. Just about an inch off the mat, and then lower them down. Coming into our child's pose once again. Feeling that stretch in the shoulder joints that we've been working to, open up and engage throughout this practice so far. Breathing here. And then on your next inhale, rising up into our tabletop, that flat back position, and tucking our toes, and then sending our hips to the sky as we come into a bent knee, downward facing dog. Slowly allowing yourself to press into the mat to stretch out foot by foot, and then stretch out throughout the back side of the body. Keeping those fingers nice and spread, just like we talked about earlier. And this should feel pretty similar to a child's pose, at least on the top body. And then slowly working to come to a point of stillness with the legs. Let's take 3 breaths here. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling through the nose. Exhaling through the nose. Once more, inhaling and exhaling. Nice job. And at this point, come up onto your tiptoes and slowly walk yourself to the front of the mat. Have your feet about hip widths apart. So that's, 2 fists if you place them in between your feet. And then have a nice bend in your knees, almost as if your chest and ribs are sitting up on top of them. Interlace your hands behind your back. And then as you start to straighten your legs on an inhale, allow the hands and the head to fold forward. Inhaling and exhaling. You might also play with the bend in your knees, taking them down low, and then exhaling as you work towards straight. On your next inhale, go ahead and release your hands down to the earth. So have a nice bit of bend in the knees. Keep your right hand in between your feet. And on your next inhale, slowly rise that left hand up to the sky. This is both that twist motion that we're looking for, as well as an opening throughout the chest and the shoulder. So I want you to imagine that you could reach underneath your right ribs. You might even do this. Reach underneath your right ribs and guide them towards the front of the body. And then allow that twist to come in through the middle part of the spine rather than just allowing yourself to look up with the neck. Pressing into both legs, the feet should both feel equally grounded. And then on the next inhale, allowing your left hand to come down to the earth, rocking side to side here. And then let's take that to the other side. So left hand stays firmly planted on the earth. And then on your inhale, you take that right hand up to the sky. If you could use a little bit of encouragement or just help with a twist, allow that right hand to reach under and through to the underside of the left rib cage. And then just give yourself that adjustment, twisting and encouraging the opening from that middle spine rather than the neck. Taking notice now as to how the feet are stabilized and how your weight is distributed. You have 3 points of contact on the earth. Do they make a nice steady triangle? Or are you sinking into one foot or that hand a little more? Continuing to breathe here. And then on your next inhale, lowering that hand down to the earth. Both are now placed almost directly in front of your toes. Your knees are bent. And then slowly starting to straighten and then rolling up, stacking the vertebrae, one on top of the other, standing tall, fingers forward as we're in Tadasana, mountain pose. Let's inhale as we bring our hands up overhead. Exhale as we hinge at our hips, folding forward, allowing the palms to connect to the earth, and then lifting to a halfway flat back. Exhale, planting the palms, and then stepping that right foot back, allowing yourself to come to that low lunge. I'm up on the back right toes. And then inhale as you rise up, coming into our high lunge here. Continuing to breathe. Our hip points are working to both face the front of the mat, nice and forward. Inhaling and exhaling. And then interlace your hands back behind your booty, opening throughout the chest. And then exhale as you dive down, taking the head and the shoulders to the inside of that front left knee. Stabilizing throughout the lower legs, squeezing the inner thighs together. And then on your next inhale, releasing your hands down to the earth and then pressing as you send that left foot back, meeting in downward facing dog. Breathing here for 3. For 2. 1 more. Nice job. Inhale as you lift up onto the toes and slowly walk yourself to the front of the mat. Coming into a ragdoll position this time and wrapping your hands around opposite elbows. Imagining if you could press the forearms into the mat, keeping a nice bend in your knees. And then imagining that same position that we've been doing with the cat pose, that C of the spine. Can you work to inhale as you puff up that space in the back body, and then exhale as you lower it down. Once more like that. Inhale as you send breath into the back body, and then exhale as you lower down. Releasing the hands, making sure you have a bend in your knees. And on your next inhale, pressing as you come up into a flat back. Exhale as you bend to come into a forward fold. And then inhale as you rise up, one vertebrae at a time, hands up overhead. And then exhale, bringing your hands to heart center. Meeting back here in Tadasana. Let's do that on the other side. Inhale, bringing our hands up overhead. Exhale as we bend our knees, hinge at our hips, and fold forward. Inhale as we rise, making contact with our shins to a flat back. Exhale as we fold forward. And then this time, let's step that left foot back, staying up on the toes, coming into our low lunge. Nice and steady and strong, a flat back here. And then when you feel ready, on an inhale, rise up into our high lunge. And once again, if I had headlights on the fronts of my hips, I'm working to face them forward. Nice and straight, coming in with the front of the mat. Continuing to breathe in this position. And then lowering down, planting the palms, and then kicking up that right foot, coming back into our downward facing dog. Taking 3 breaths here, inhaling and exhaling. Once again. Last one. Nice job. And on your next inhale, coming up on your toes, walking yourself to the front of the mat. And then this time, interlacing our hands behind our back once again, keeping a nice and steady lower body. Our knees are bent. And making sure that this time with the clasp of the hands, you're doing it that funky way. Whichever way feels a little weird. And then maybe as before, on the inhale, you start to straighten your legs. And then on the exhale, you bend, imagining the top of the head and the hands will someday touch the earth. And then the next time you're down at the bottom, releasing the hands. And then inhaling as you slowly come up, stacking the spine. Hands up overhead. And then exhale as you bring your hands to the prayer position in front of your chest. Resting here once again. Nice job. Once more, inhaling, bringing the hands up overhead. Exhale as we fold forward, connecting with the earth. Oop, my headphone's falling out. Inhale as you rise to a halfway lift. Exhale as you plant the palms and step both feet back this time. Coming once again up into this high lunge position, engaging with the abs, pressing those 10 fingers away, and then slowly lowering one knee at a time, coming into our child's pose. And then this time around, encouraging you to walk your fingers forward, just feeling if there's any increased movement that you have in your shoulders. And then on your next inhale, go ahead and take both of the hands over to the left side. Maybe you're stacking them on top of each other. Feeling with every inhale and exhale that stretch along the right side of the body. You're grounding down throughout that right hip. as you're stretching up and over. Continuing to take the breath pattern that suits your body. And then inhaling as you bring yourself back to center. Exhaling as you take the stretch over, stacking the hands and going to the right side. Same thing on this side, making notice to ground down on that left hip, but then imagining that rainbow that's being created alongside the left body as you stretch up and over to meet the left hand on the right. On your next inhale, bringing both hands back to center and then slowly rolling up, allowing yourself to scoot over to one side, pressing the feet out, straightening the legs, and giving them a little bit of a bounce. And then on your inhale, bringing the soles of the feet together and then bringing them closer to that sacred space. You might encourage the muscle and the tissue to expand outwards, allowing the sits bones to make contact as much as possible. And then on your inhale, you're gonna work on straightening and stacking that spine. And then exhale, as you hinge at the hips, my elbows are on the outer portion of my shins. And then I slowly drop my neck. Really focusing on sending the breath up throughout this flat back as you're pressing together the soles of the feet. And maybe you have the elbows on the calves, and it's not like you're pressing them down. That's not the point, but maybe you're preventing them from coming up. Continuing to send the breath to, maybe it's your inner thighs, maybe it's your groin, or maybe you feel this along the back body. And then on your next inhale, slowly stacking the spine upright once again, encouraging the knees to fold inwards, stacking the legs out in front and giving them a little bit of a bounce here. On your next inhale, bringing the right knee up and in towards the sacred space, giving it a nice bit of a hug. And then inhale as you bring the right hand up over your head, and exhale as you go for an open twist to the left side. My left hand is back behind my body, and my right hand is making contact with my calf. I'm kind of using this as a little bit of a leverage. I'm not saying to crank yourself, but it's just a point of support. And then just like we helped ourselves turn from the rib cage, you might do that with your left hand. And so that it's really coming from the ribs, I encourage you to actually look forward to create that bit of opposition. Oftentimes people just look back over their left shoulder, thinking that they're increasing the depth of the stretch. Sending breath to any points along the way. And then on your next inhale, slowly releasing, coming back through center, and then wrapping your left hand around the right knee as we take the counter twist. Once again, if that hand is helpful in encouraging the ribs, go ahead and reach the right hand through, making contact with the left ribs and allowing them to open a little bit further to that right side. If it feels okay for your neck, you can look over the right shoulder, or just like we did on the other side, looking out towards the front of the mat. It's a nice point of opposition. And then on your next inhale, slowly unwinding, placing that right foot down, giving them a little bit of a bounce through the legs. And then inhale, bringing the soles of the feet together. We'll come for another round of cobbler's pose. Inhaling as you stack the spine upwards. Exhale as you hinge at your hips, and then slowly drop the head when you can go further, no more. Continuing to breathe, even in this compressed position. It's a nice reminder that the breath can get us through all things on the mat. And fundamentally, it's training ground for all things off the mat. On your next inhale, slowly rising up, straightening the legs out in front, giving them a little bit of a bounce. And then on the next inhale, bringing the left knee in nice and tight. The heel is making contact almost with that sacred space. And then on the next inhale, lifting up with the left hand. And then exhale as you take the left hand to the outer right shin, as you twist from the rib cage, looking out over the right side. And maybe you want to help bring that left shoulder and rib over. So I'm reaching through with my right hand. And then just like we did on the other side, I'm going to look forward so that I can make sure that I'm twisting from my middle body versus just straining my neck. Keeping with your breath pattern, being mindful not to hold it. And then on your next inhale, slowly come back towards center, grabbing the bent knee with your right hand and exhaling as you turn to the left side. This nice counter twist should feel good. It completes our series of 4. You can be looking forward or you can be looking back. And then on your next inhale, slowly coming back to center, releasing the legs out in front, giving them a little bit of a bounce. And then bringing both feet down onto the earth, sending the knees high and scooting your booty in towards the middle of the mat, and then slowly lowering down onto the elbows, rolling through the spine, and then releasing the legs down in front. Coming into our final resting pose, Shavasana. Just like where we started. Making sure that you have maintained that space. If it feels comfortable, you can close your eyes, allowing the toes to open to the side, the palms to face up. And let's take 2 breaths together. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. Once again, inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. Rest here. And know that you don't have to worry about time or the space, because I'm watching it for us. Allowing the body to make contact with the earth and the benefits of the practice to pulse throughout the body. Starting to deepen the inhale and the exhale. Starting to send some movement to the fingers, the wrists, the ankles, and the toes. And then when it feels okay for you, go ahead and roll onto the right side, coming into a fetal position. And then pressing into that top left hand to allow yourself to come up to a seated position. Sukhasana, easy seat, Virasana, hero's pose. And I'll meet you with our hands together at our chest, our eyes slightly gazing downwards. Allowing yourself to feel the inhale and the exhale beneath your hands. And if you'd like to join me on an inhale for Om, let's inhale together. Om. Bringing your knuckles to the third eye, the space between the brows, giving yourself a bit of a massage. And then maybe you bow down in front, sealing our time together. Rising up, thanking yourself for making time for your practice today. And I thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.